I thought about a fun bonus feature. Let's compare what's different in the manga version. Okay, first off, I gotta say, the art style was very undeveloped at this stage. Again, understandable, these were pilot episodes, these weren't originally in the position of chapters 1 to 3. The first introduction to Maka and Soul was fighting a totally different enemy. Hey, no, Born of the Future, this was actually just a mistake. The site I'm reading it on has things listed in a weird order. When you click, start reading from the start, it goes to technically chapter 1, quote unquote, and skips the first 3 actual chapters because they're labelled Prologue 1, Prologue 2, and Prologue 3 rather than chapters 1, 2, and 3. So just that choice of naming them differently made the system wig out. I was in fact accidentally reading chapter 4. So I'm going to cut all out. I'm going to leave just a brief summary of funny things or interesting things I happened to remark on in the 2 pages I saw of that. Also, yeah, I'm sorry I'm reading this on a website. It did say this was a rip of the official translation. Unfortunately, I don't have a webcam. I can't really, hold a book up to the screen. I also couldn't, run out and find a copy of Soul Eater 1 at 4 AM. But I just want to reassure you guys, I will indeed be buying an official volume. I just wanted to rush to get this video done. Maybe I'll treat myself. I'll buy the anniversary re-release. I've been told it has different covers, and they fixed some things in the translation. The only thing I know about is they fixed pronouns for one character that had a mistake later on. But I have no idea if they changed other things. That'll be neat. We've got a great clash between the vibrant colours and the blacks and the shading, and it just looks great. Soul and Maka with their eyes blacked out like they're on an expose on a documentary or something. The big faded sound effect with the little sound effects over it, that looks really nice. Oh, first appearance of the iconic smiley moon, it had a different eye design. Oh, and the colours are a little bit different for the school, and I like this, Maka's coat all super crumpled up and geometric. Man, the author's so good at great splash pages. I do not remember them suddenly starting with just all 3 of the characters are already friends, and they have a random remedial lesson, and then Bonford realised. Here is the perfect edition. Here is me adding the perfect edition to my basket. Obviously, I can't show you me buying it, because I'm not going to give you my credit card information, but trust me. I want to also briefly come in to say, why the fuck does the perfect edition look so bad? I got hyped thinking, oh yeah, new covers illustrated by the original author, but did he just forget how to draw any of the characters? What is wrong with everyone's faces? Maka looks bizarrely shocked. Soul looks like he's from the gorillas. What is happening to this chin? Why have they got the main villain looking like a goofy cartoon character? Generally, did the author just spend so long not drawing the series that he forgot? Or he's actually not by the author and it's some kind of guest artist and the Amazon page is just lying? Because it doesn't make any sense, because it's not like he's doing it in the Fire Force art style. That's his next manga he did after this. It just looks wrong. It looks bad. It looks incorrect anatomy. And not in the stylized way the series already had. It's genuinely so off-putting, it made me kind of not want to buy them, but I did just say it on the video. Maybe I'll cross my fingers, maybe it's a dust cover or something that you can take off and swap out. And now back to the actual chapter review. The first chapter, what the fuck is this pose? I'm sorry, but is it supposed to be fan service? Is it just a really strange idea? Why is he presenting his ass? No one's got any skimpy clothes or anything, so what's the intent of this? Are they gonna do piggyback rides? Behold, the first pilot chapter, the art style was even less developed. Maka with totally different ponytails. And oh my god, the ass man was worse in the manga. I totally do not remember him having a literal ball sack. I did read this as a child, it might have gone over my head. I was grossed out by the obvious fan service, but I didn't really have a sense of what male fan service is meant to be like, because you just didn't see it on television at the time. I don't think this is probably being played for actual fan service. From how weird his design is, I think they're going for fan disservice instead. And they do have the clunky exposition of, hey, here's exactly what's going on, same as the anime. The phrasing of it is slightly different though. This line here actually happens a bit later in the first episode. The whole fight is over in one really, really cool splash page. And again, the beta design of the moon. I also totally forgot in the manga they don't have that unique scaly effect of the Kishin souls. As far as I can remember, the whole concept of calling them Kishin egg souls was anime exclusive, and I don't know if that was intended as censorship or just a way of building on the world building, because it is still the same thing of we take the souls of 99 evil humans, either way they're still humans that we're taking the souls of, and they're still humans who very frequently look very monstrous because that's just what happens when you have the evil power. It's not quite so explicitly said, choosing to be evil makes your soul in fact not human, therefore for it is okay to take. Which I guess might be the justification for changing it to specifically being your Akishin in progress soul. Or it might just be like, let's foreshadow Akishin existing a lot earlier, which works really well. Or just, let's make a cooler design for the soul, because it is kind of boring. And also an observation about this particular page, why does Soul suddenly have a different nose in the last panel? I kind of wish he always had that, that's very cute. God, they look so different. They look different than they even did on the actual cover's opening page. I kind of like Soul having a spiky outfit. To be honest, he doesn't fit in very well in Death City, does he? He is just kind of cool guy. If he didn't have pointy teeth, you'd never know he was meant to be a demon weapon soul-eating man. And his forehead thing is also totally different. I like that design better, that like little clampy belt thing, but it's got a face on it, that's cute. Not so fussed on his hair being like a shark fin, though. And then Maka just looks way younger than she's meant to be. She kind of looks like a generic moe cute girl, rather than a cool badass protagonist. I feel the changes they made to stylize her up a bit and give her more unique aspects worked a lot better. That's why I'm gonna say that here Soul looks much more unique and Maka looks much less unique. Even in the final show, the fact that she's the one who just like wears her uniform all the time and doesn't really have anything special that stands out, like that's her defining trait, and like that suits her personality, being the one who's very serious about studying. But it does also make it like, oh, she doesn't look quite as cool in action scenes sometimes, and it does rely a lot on just her being really good at fighting and Soul in Scythe form looking really cool. Also gotta say, Soul in Scythe form has no design elements whatsoever with his final design. I can kind of see it a bit more in this design. At least the headband does vaguely resemble it. As far as I can tell, this is the official translation of the manga, and they don't have any of the cool flourishes for Dub had. They don't have a new explanation for why Shinigami Sama's mirror number is this. They don't call him Lord Death, and it sounds a little bit awkward. I'm always on the side of like, I don't get why some people prefer overly literal translations rather than ones that actually explain what's going on. Like, sometimes you just have to make an executive decision of like, it will ruin the pacing if we just go and save a Japanese word and have a little note saying this is what that means, and they don't even have that here. So anyone who's reading this and hasn't happened to have already seen a manga that already has Shinigami in it just has no idea what anyone's talking about. But retract all this complaint if this does turn out to be a fan translation, because again, this is the only version I can access right now to do this recording. Born of the Future, I went and I found there's a Kindle download for this, available officially, but it's the previous old bad translation, not a perfect edition updated version, and I can confirm, yes, that old bad translation was bad about Shinigami-sama. Seriously, it just means Grim Reaper-sama. The reason they changed it to Lord Death is just to fit the lip flaps in the anime. They couldn't fit Lord Grim Reaper in there. But you're a manga, you can just write that. And he's very clearly based on the Western Grim Reaper, not specifically the Shinigami. Like, they're just using that because that's the Japanese word for it. You can just use the English word for the same thing. Little bit of a tangent, but it's a big pet peeve for me when people go weird about this in translation discourse, where it's like, oh, if a character's name is just a word in Japanese, you should leave it in Japanese in the translation because it sounds more like a name, and not convey in any way what the meaning of the word is. And I just don't get that, because the entire point is it's unusual the character has a name which is not a name, it's a word. Shouldn't the point of translation be to deliver the same experience to everyone regardless of language? Like, the one that really bugs me is specifically in the anime Princess Tutu. People rage so much about the translators correctly translating the name Ahiru as duck, because that's what Ahiru means, and the entire point of the character is it's unusual that her name is just the name of an animal, because she is an animal that was given human form. The only argument anyone ever gave was, oh, Ahiru sounds pretty, it sounds more like a normal name. It's not supposed to sound like a normal name. They would have given her a normal name if they wanted to do that. Oh, it's so goofy, everyone going around calling a person duck. Yeah, you've got the correct experience of the Japanese version. Oh. Another one that bugged me, in the anime and the manga, number 6, great boys love manga, really recommend it, but in the anime, they left the guy's name untranslated as Nezumi. In the manga, correctly translated as rat. The entire point of the name is like, oh, that's really weird and unusual. Why does this guy have a name of like a negative, hated rodent? And it's because he's grown up on the streets, he's living this horrible situation, he didn't have a real name, he only had a code number. Like, it's genuinely plot relevant why his name is meant to not sound good and mysterious and beautiful, like Nezumi sounds to an English audience who doesn't know what it means. I don't know why people are so mad at just translators letting you know what something means. Anyway, I can't believe I paid $5.99 just to see the same page. I have bought Soul Eater Volume 1 twice. Hopefully that will make the universe forgive me for making a slightly lazy video. Not gonna show it, but the fan service was even worse in the manga version. They've got squish physics on her boobs. For no apparent reason, she's squooshing her boobs against each other in a really gross way. There's lots of shading on the soap. It's bad. Missing line in the anime, I don't recall Soul saying that Blair's house looks delicious. Not sure why they cut that out, that's just charming. Another line cut out that I can understand why it's cut out, Maka's insult to Soul as he goes rushing in recklessly and almost ruins the plan is, listen to me when I talk to you, I made you, you know, which makes no sense with how we learn how the weapon people work later on. They are just born like human beings, it's like a weapon gene. Metaphorically, I guess you could say like, I am in the process of making you, as in, once we get the final soul, I will have made you a more upgraded weapon. But that just doesn't make a lot of sense for how the character's phrasing it in this situation in any way. So I think this might have just been an earlier idea for the world. They might have genuinely been the idea that weapon people are forged, and Maka literally made Soul to be her friend like a homunculus or something. But that's just not canon in the final version. Again, I'm going to cut out the actual image, but I was surprised one bit of the fan service is less bad in the manga version. They somehow decided to increase it, and that's bizarre. In the manga version, Soul does not land directly into her boobs while she is naked, and also his groin going onto her groin. In the manga version, he just lands in a much larger bath. It's like a big jacuzzi or something, and he's in front of her and then sees her naked. Surprisingly, a little bit more restraint, but the drawing is still really, really over the top and disgusting and shows literally everything. Aside from just like airbrushing out any visible nipples. It is full frontal, there's not even soap covering where they would be. They just didn't draw them on. Oh, then immediately one panel later, it's worse in the manga. Her naked, getting out of the bath, grabbing Soul's body, squishing him between her boobs and her groin. At the same time, just really scrunched over like a Pac-Man shape. It doesn't look very good. The fight is again over in one move, and again, it's really well drawn as a splash panel. I can see that the author clearly knew how to like make up for his own deficiencies. Like, hey, I'm not good yet at drawing a full action battle, so I will just make the one best page possible. And I can respect that. But I also can respect that the anime did expand upon these things a bit. Slightly different framing with how her playboy dad is portrayed. In the anime, we get kind of a bit more of a reason why Maka hates him and implications he already is a playboy, just from the first scene we see of her talking to him and Lord Death. Here in this one, it's a very brief conversation at first. All we really know is, Maka, Daddy still loves you, no I don't trust you, I hate you, you're no father of mine, and then no real idea of why yet. And then later on, midway through the Blair fight, we cut to him in the hostess club being a pervert. It's like, oh yeah, that's why. Also gotta say, the sexy chupacabra on the illustration, what is up with her feet? Is she like both a ghost and a lizard? Also an extremely minor change, the moment where one of the sex worker girls explains his entire backstory and why he's such a shitty man, in the manga is framed as her accidentally being insensitive. It's like, whisper, whisper, don't say this, that he has a terrible divorce and he's awful to his wife and his daughter hates him because of all the consequences of his own actions, and it's not portrayed as her actually genuinely having any kind of malice against him. She's just really insensitive. In the anime, they animate her doing various, like, fiendish faces, and it kind of feels like she is doing it on purpose. Oh, and the joke at the ending of it wasn't as funny either. In the manga, it's just the joke is, he's really sad when his daughter hates him, and he's gonna run off and like, I'll be good now, and then the sexy ladies go, oh, but come back again to our sexy lady place, and then he just like, okay, yeah, I still will. In the anime, it's much funnier that he runs the fuck out and he goes all the way down the road. You see him going back and forth multiple times like he has no idea where he's going. and then it cuts to him realizing that he forgot to pay, and that's the reason he comes back. And then they do have the come again okay, but after that, I just felt it made the punchline hit a bit stronger. The joke isn't just he's a pervert, it's also a dumbass who forgot money must be exchanged for goods and services. Another minor change of a minor thing I never bothered to mention before. In the anime, Blair sees Soul and Maka hiding badly behind a bush. In the manga, it's a tree. And another weird change is Maka just beats up Soul for being a meanie in the manga, and it's portrayed in that kind of cliche 90s anime way where like the tsundere will beat up the boy and he looks like he's bleeding or suffering or bad or has a bunch of lumps, but then it's just treated as okay and he's fine one panel later, and I never really understood why that was supposed to be comedic. I guess the idea is just, oh, women can't actually abuse men, they're so weak it wouldn't really hurt them or something. Or like we're meant to suspend our disbelief and think it's not really happening, she's not really punching him, it's a metaphorical representation of just yelling at him. It always confused me anyway, the anime just removes that. They do actually keep one of the slapstick jokes, Maka's Maka chop and Lord Death's Reaper chop, where it's basically just, she throws a book at someone, like slapstick style an anvil in a cartoon, and it leaves a big dent in the exact shape of the book, and it's very obvious it's not really happening, it's just a joke. I prefer that. It's like if the shitty tsundere pulled out a rocket launcher and blasted the guy into space. It's very obviously absurd enough to actually be funny, rather than just, we're a shonen battle anime, is this person actually initiating a fight? No, I guess not, because they're just kind of drawn in the chibi style. That's what I mean, like, if everyone's already punching each other, sometimes it gets a little bit confusing. The pacing's a lot different for establishing that Maka is so grumpy because she has issues with men. It's all really crammed into these panels of really big text boxes with lots of text in them, and they could have spread it out better throughout the other scenes, which the anime just does. Oh, missing moment of Blair being a little bit more sinister. Oh, they drew actual fucking nipples! Okay, I guess they manifest into existence when she puts her shirt on. I mean, considering we learn later this is her illusionary form she picked for herself and she's actually a cat, maybe she has some kind of self-censorship filter on the magic, I don't know. But anyway, as I was trying to say, she gets a badass moment of, aha, I will kill you to steal Soul to be my partner. I guess maybe this was removed because it does make it the moral of the day a bit less, like, you shouldn't have just rushed in and attacked Blair without confirming that she was an innocent person before. She actually is, in one way, acting mean and evil, so they do feel a bit more justified. It does feel a bit more like, oh, you're being punished unnecessarily in the end. They also don't have the moment where Blair's like, why are you calling me a witch, I'm not a witch, and they don't notice because they're bickering. So, two good additions from the anime there. But it's a shame we lost this really badass pose. Just ignore the bottom half of the image. God, generally the anatomy is so strange. It looks like the boobs aren't connected to her torso. It looks like she has a flat chest and then she's stuck the boobs on top like double-sided sticky tape or something. They look like bread loaves. And then we have some genuine actual fight scenes for multiple pages. The basics are the iconic moments along the fight are there, but everything seems much faster paced in the manga. Zap, 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 you don't have a sense of like, how did they get from one position to another? At least here you have the wind up and then the finisher for cutting her pumpkin in half, and then she at some point jumped out of the way and stuff. In the anime, the action is a lot clearer, and it's also just really well animated and fleshed out and fun, and the fights are honestly one of the best parts of the show. And it's cool to see the building blocks of how it would eventually get that way to actually also be the fights are the best part of the manga too, in later chapters. Blair's hat hand thingy has a face on it and a name. I do not remember that at all in the episode. It does very briefly appear for a couple of frames in the attack animation. I just missed it because the fight goes so fast. I care, Yuzu-kun. Oh, another good moment of framing Blair as actually looking sinister. I like this one here where the shadow goes over her face, you can see one cat eye. It is a bit heavy-handed foreshadowing, I guess, but in this version of the manga, that's the only foreshadowing we've got. We haven't had any mentions from her implying she is indeed an innocent cat. So I feel it works good here. I do think the anime could have done this. They could have still just framed her by the animation as looking like she's evil, instead of just looking harmless and funny and silly, pervy joke lady. They could still just reveal in the end that she's not, because it would make sense, like the anime is showing Maka and Soul's perception of her rather than reality. Oh, this bit here is something I didn't actually comment on in the original review of the episode. It's a minor scene between Maka's shitty dad and Lord Death. I think the the only required context here is Maka's shitty dad, even though he was horrible to his wife, it's portrayed as he genuinely does care about his daughter Maka and he wants to reconnect, and sometimes it's played for comedy, sometimes it's played for genuine drama, the fact that she obviously doesn't trust him because of what he did. I don't remember if the show ever did actually have reconcile, I don't remember if there was any resolution or if he did learn a lesson at some point. But basically this scene is to establish that yeah, he does genuinely care about his daughter. Even horrible sexism men can have fully rounded personalities. But the issue with the scenes I got really confused is, why is Lord Death being angry at him specifically for, oh, your daughter is here fighting Blair and you weren't here to watch because you were so busy philandering up with those women at the brothel. And I just found that was a really strange plot hole, because the show showed us that Maka and Soul came back multiple days to try and fight Blair the fan service lady, and every time various fan service shenanigans would get in the way and have to start over again. So how would the dad have been able to know that they were currently fighting her right now if they were fighting her multiple times? Did they schedule it to always be the same time of the day they were fighting and they gave him an invitation or something? It's probably me just thinking too much into the scene, but I was like, he's a bad dude and he's done bad things, but this is not one of them. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, the scene did end in some motivational words from Lord Death, and that's the difference between the anime and the manga, which I'll explain now. I don't really like the framing here of how he explains his, big moral moment. It's one of those common bits you'll see in anime where, he dramatically cuts off before the end of a sentence and you're just left to figure out what he said. But when that's happening in the middle of an action scene, the reader probably isn't going to take the time to stop and think through that. They are just I'm just going to scroll straight on. So many people probably wouldn't have got that what he actually means here is, the reason we can't step in and stop is because Maka has to do this for herself. This is her moment of proving things, and don't you believe in her too? Together as dads, this is how we should treat our children. We should believe that they are strong enough, they've grown enough to do things on their own. Which he didn't explain in that many long-ass words in the anime, that's just me summarising it up badly, but it's better than not having even one of those words at all. Just, as her father, I'm sure you understand. I'm sure everyone in the audience also understands. I would not have understood if this was all I saw. But I do also like that they're preserving the surprise a bit more, that her dad is actually the current Death Scythe of Death. They just show him having generic spiky powers here. You can just tell he's got some kind of weapon powers, but not which ones, or that he's the most powerful one of all. Oh, the framing of Soul's betrayal is much less dramatic. They do still end on the joke of him going all funny, lovey-dovey eyes after he fully betrays her, but it's completely missing that whole scene of him deciding to do it at the most possibly dramatic moment, where Maka thinks he's going to save her from falling off a building, but then he in fact doesn't. And it's great foreshadowing too. I didn't even mention that during the review. It's great foreshadowing that it looks like he dropped her off a building and is betraying her, but then he knew that he was dropping her onto a spot where she would be okay and she'd land alright. And that makes you think for a second, hey, maybe is he not really betraying her? And here instead it's just portrayed as 100% funny, and we're not really dwelling into Maka's sheer sense of betrayal and sadness, and that's a big missed opportunity, and I'm glad the anime filled that in. I'm also not sure if this is just a change in this particular translation, or did the anime add this? Did the manga add this? Was it the same in Japanese in both? But Soul always insults Maka for being a shorty, not a girl with a sexy body, rather than her being flat-chested and not having boobs. I could easily see this being a censorship to make Soul sound a little bit less sexist. It's still obviously a stupid and mean thing to say, but it's less, I guess, focused on a certain part of the anatomy and more just overall you aren't very womanly. But also I can easily see this just being the anime phrase things a bit different to make him sound worse, to make the scene more dramatic. Also, is it just me or does Maka look really weird in this moment that's supposed to be showing this is her finally actually having the despair moment? Just totally changed art style, she's like a shoujo now? Just overall the phrasing of Maka's big moment, expressing exactly what she's upset about, is a lot shorter and a lot less effective. This might again just be a case of the translation here was very literal versus the anime dub has put a bit of more of a flourish to convey the same feelings in English. Or it could just be the manga had much less page time. The one big splash panel of them finishing Blair off looks pretty cool. They kind of had censorship on something that was already censored. You can clearly see it here. They've just chopped her in half, but there's no blood, there's no gore anyway. It's all fuzzy. But in the anime, they showed Maka swiping through her, but you didn't see it actually chop like that. I didn't even notice in the split second of the scene. It just kind of has her shadowed out and then she poofs. And it's strange they did show Maka chopping up the ugly butt guy earlier. So maybe for some reason it's like female villains can't have the same level of violence. Also a little odd, the framing of Maka being like, oh, thank you, Soul, I trust you. Again, she kind of changed his art style. It's not just me, right? The proportions of her face have been very different on almost every page. This is like a different shoujo. Her eyes just suddenly went blank. Usually when you see that in anime, that signifies like a character's possessed or something. Also, I don't know, like, the way it's been put in this like fluffy shoujo bubble makes me think like, oh, are they framing it as romantic? The anime is a bit more restrained. Like, they obviously do still have potential shipping chemistry, but considering how they've only just like fully bonded as friends and finally understood each other for the first time, it's not too heavy in the first episode, and it takes later on to be more developed. This is also probably the best place to mention just a general sense of like a difference in tone I've been picking up, mostly around Maka. Like, she just generally doesn't feel badass. It's a lot of how she's drawn different, like she doesn't have like stern, serious expression. We don't have the moment of her being like, I'll take your soul, dramatically shouting. She has just kind of waffled between this face and like Lil Chibi one yelling at Soul for being a douche. And it does kind of give the vibe of like really bad bottom of the barrel shoujo stuff where it's almost as if the artist was forbidden from giving females expressions beyond like neutral smile. I don't know. Oh, Blair's cat form had a totally different design. She looks more similar to her human form and still keeps the hat. I like this design here, but it doesn't seem to fit in the art style at all, with the really realistic shading for the fur and stuff. And again, like I said before, it feels less like they're being punished for genuinely making an actual mistake they made, and more just like everything in the universe contrived to never let them have even one bit of evidence that she wasn't actually evil, and they're being punished unreasonably for something that wasn't actually their fault. Big props, good change in the anime. Don't know if I have to censor that for YouTube, but for no apparent reason, the final panel cutting out, it was indeed what I thought when I was watching, like, oh yeah, this is just like the final splash panel where like, and then Blair joins the crew, and then she doesn't in fact join the crew in later chapters. It was a thing that was changed between this and the final canon. In this panel, for no apparent reason, they just suddenly have the moon being stabbed repeatedly and gorily by all the skyscrapers of the buildings. Like, haha, funny, because they're riding at this angle, like, it's literally physically happening, and it's like, oh fuck, the moon got in the way. That's a really funny joke, but it's really over-the-top, excessively gory. And it's really strange when this chapter had no blood whatsoever until now. Versus the anime episode did have a little bit when they were fighting the arse man at the beginning. Manga comparison, episode 2. The one I did not like. Well, I like it more in this version. Exactly what I said about the anime previews ruining it. It generally does just immediately introduce Black Star as, oh, is he a genuinely cool ninja? And then, haha, funny punchline, he is not. Completely lost because we have been told 3 times in a row exactly what the joke is going to be. Really strange. I don't know why I didn't just either cut it down to only one preview and keep things secret in that preview, or just remove the previews on the DVD release and have them be an optional bonus menu thing. Also, this version has a much worse translation for the ninja weapon Shadow Arms. It's the Demon Shadow Weapon, which just sounds awkward because by definition all the weapons are demon weapons. That's like the basic name for them. Really doesn't show that, yeah, this is a separate one, this is a special power only Tsubaki has. It also doesn't in any way convey the fact that why it's special is she can be multiple weapons. Dark Arms instantly conveys all of that. Oh, I prefer the framing of this in the manga, this bit of her dynamically halfway coming out of weapon form to tell him off for singing into her like a microphone like a dumbass. In the anime, they just wait until the animation is finished of her going fully human, and then they have a dialogue. Tsubaki fucking crying in the manga version, I feel even more sorry for her. Also, why is Black Star's face really wide in this one panel? I feel bad goofing on the art. Like, I know I can't draw something as good as this, let alone something better, but it is still, it's a difference that I can notice, I can point out. It did take a few volumes for the author to really get the hang of drawing consistent style. And I don't think these are probably, like, mistakes. It's probably more like experimenting, trying to see what works out. I'm not being mean about this. Very different design changes. Black Star's hair at this point is much more detailed rather than, it's just like, it's a solid outline in the anime and also in the later manga. And the way the spikes are done, it looks exactly like Cloud Strife. In the anime and again the later manga, it's more like a star shape. And then Tsubaki for this panel and this panel alone has a lighter hair colour, so I think it's probably meant to be dramatic shading rather than an actual change. And her entire outfit is much more fan-servicey. which will be completely changed after this one chapter. Black Star's bad joke is totally different in this translation, even more worse and unfunny. I actually can't remember what it was in the anime because it was so unfunny that I just didn't register it at all. But at least it's framed less bad because of the dialogue that comes up before it. He says, "Because I'm such a big shot, I won't treat you bad." I feel like that might have been what the original Japanese joke was. "I won't treat you cold for making such a chilly joke," because in Japanese that is an idiom. When you say a joke is bad, you say it's cold. And I feel like both translations maybe had to bend over backwards to find a new joke to put in that position. And it does work because it's supposed to be a bad joke, so it doesn't even matter if you fuck up the translation like this. But I would say "Stop with the weird joke, you bloke" is vastly worse of the two. I don't even have to remember what the other one was to know that. It makes no sense. Nobody in the room is a bloke except you. And why did he become British? Also, surprising change, the little boy things with funny faces are indeed still there in the manga, but have a totally different design. I don't like this as much. I don't like that the tube is where you would expect the groin to be. I would personally categorise these as looking more like penguins than octopi. In the manga, they have all three characters of the first three chapters use a different way to contact Death. In the final version in the anime, it's changed to only Death the kid has a unique way of contacting Death, and everybody else has to do the writing his number on a window thing. I'm not sure exactly how throwing a smoke bomb summons Death. And it's also weird that someone who can turn into a smoke bomb also carries smoke bombs for this exact purpose. That would be like if I had a tiny action figure of myself, which I threw at a wall and an entirely different person came out. Whoa, what? Entirely different plot point that is not in the anime at all? This definitely does make Black Star seem a little less shitty, because again, we didn't actually have the establishing scene earlier on saying the reason that Black Star wanted to take out that Al Capone guy is because he had the equivalent power of a soul with 99 souls in it because he'd eaten 99 souls. Immediately we haven't got the idea that Black Star specifically took that job in order to cheat. Instead we have Death himself is raising the possibility, saying specifically that Mifune's soul is in fact that soul. He has defeated 99 bad guys and he has the power of that soul. And so it also fills a plot hole of like, Al Capone guy didn't really exist for any purpose, he just gets defeated on off screen to prove Mifune is stronger than him. Instead we just literally already have the establishing information that Mifune is stronger than him, and Black Star is indeed choosing to go and do a different mission, instead of just repeatedly going for the Al Capone guy and refusing to admit he was wrong. He still doesn't admit he's wrong, but this definitely frames the difference. Like, Death's life is purposefully testing them by giving them a temptation, rather than Black Star is choosing an obviously terrible choice because he just hates hard work and disrespects his partner. Also makes more sense why the fuck he's fighting Mifune in the first place, because in the anime it truly is just, we walked in for a totally different mission. This guy is here who is not evil at all. I'm gonna fight him just because I want to prove I'm the strongest. And here we have Lord Death is specifically misleading them into the idea of thinking that, oh, this is a big temptation, you can win immediately, you can bypass your whole school rules if you defeat this guy. And Black Star has to then realise, oh, the whole reason of why this is a test is the guy I supposedly can defeat to instantly graduate school is a good guy, and this was 10,000 times less hatred for Black Star in this version. I still don't like him, but yeah, he got really done dirty in that episode. What the hell? Like, genuine actual reason to continue fighting Mifune when Mifune just says he's not evil. Like, of course Black Star wouldn't believe it if his boss, the principal of the school, had given him conflicting information. Which Angela's house has a totally different design in the manga, and it is not shaped like her hat. I also don't know what's up with these little cloud dragons, but I really like them. Also, minor differences to the minions from Al Capone, they don't have the floofy hair at the back. We also actually see Mifune fighting Al Capone and taking him out. We don't see the fight, but we see them meeting, we have this dramatic moment, and we know he is going to defeat them to protect his witch daughter. That's a lot less anticlimactic to just cutting to, by the way, the boss of the first half of the episode has been killed off screen, and we had no foreshadowing whatsoever that Mifune even existed. But the anime did improve one thing to make Black Star a little bit less shit. In the manga version, he was 100% intentionally trying to peek on Tsubaki for no reason, and just putting on a performance pretending he's doing a candid camera show to an invisible audience. And that's the reason she catches him, is because he's yelling out loud how much he really fucking loves staring at women non-consensually in the bath. What a fuck. At least that makes sense when the end of the episode ends with him staring at women non-consensually in the bath. I wish they committed fully to the idea that it was an accident, like, both times, rather than only one time we're going to show him being slightly more sympathetic, and then he still is a fuck anyway. I was just giving you credit, he was a little bit less hateful in this version. There's multiple pages of her in the bath. It's much more detailed and even more disgusting than it already was. Let's just say they have the fold in between her legs to show the silhouette of where the opening would be. They just draw her like the most bare minimum level of Barbie doll anatomy you can imagine. They just draw the silhouette of the entire genitalia, and they just don't put the lines in, to put it that way. I saw that and I was immediately like, what the actual fuck? And she also gets a stupid pose of squishing her boobs together in a logical way that would make no sense unless you were purposefully trying to do fan service for the audience, which is clearly not. But yeah, it's just there's a lot more focus on it. Yeah. Oh, incidentally, they also give a name to Witch Angela's house. It's called the Demon Cinder Castle. And the funny environment trees are even more scrungly. Oh, I love them. The one on the left especially, what a derpy friend. The one at the bottom, how funny the lies. Oh, that guy in the background. Oh, I want to go to Hell Tree Village. What even is it? Just for one panel and for 1 second of the anime. I guess this is just a location you have to go through to get to the witch area. But why did they never bring it back? Give me 5,000 episodes set in this location. Kind of a heartwarmingly framed moment of Black Star being like, hey, yeah, I want to put on a great performance, but still I'm determined to make you a powerful death scythe no matter what, just leave it to me. And it's all framed like they're both smiling, they genuinely understand each other. And also, so far, we haven't had any moment of cutting over to Maka and Soul saying, oh, by the way, they're all best friends with Black Star, and we're going to directly tell you he's not as much of a jerk as he seems. They're just trusting you to get that from occasionally portraying him actually acting nice in any way. It still falls flat because I don't believe it. This one moment, this just 2 panels of them smiling at each other doesn't make up for all the rest of the shit he's done, but he's done so much less shit in this version. It's much shorter. There's at least one moment which had a justification for it. He just overall seems like a more oblivious, bratty dude that may possibly have development in the future, rather than a guy who is directly refusing to take development 50,000 times in a row. Oh, also the castle does have a hat on it, it's just in a different location, like halfway down. Mifune fight also more justified. Mifune actually attacks first to ward him off, like, I guess assuming he's also part of the Al Capone gang. Also, I only just noticed that Black Star has a hoodie in this version. I have never noticed that on his anime design. I don't know if it's removed or if it's just harder to see because it's not so spiky. But that is kind of a funny idea to have a hoodie precisely shaped like the hair that goes underneath it. And I do like this as a moment because from Mifune's perspective, you could understand why he would jump in. From Black Star's perspective, you could understand why he would believe this proves that Mifune is in fact actually evil. It's a much more understandable misunderstanding, if that makes sense. First moment of actual gore against a human being in the series. Again, the anime has already shown blood before this. Here we have a scene that's a lot more, we didn't fully see this in the anime. It was just like, oh, when you defeat Al Capone and you take his soul, and there's just a bunch of souls around rather than bodies, but here we have Al Capone's whole ass body being pierced by apparently an iron pipe instead of a sword. And more establishment again of the reasonable misunderstanding. Mifune's perspective, are you also an arsehole coming here to murder my witch child? Black Star's perspective, thinking this is like an actual evil witch. Like, of course I am. I'm here to take your soul as well because you're evil and this is what I have to do for the mission. Understandable reasons why they would fight. Not just Black Star being so arrogant and shit he ignores all obvious signs. They really did him dirty. I also really like this panel of Tsubaki's hair turning into the weapon. I think she's probably one of the best ones in the series for multiple creative ways of transforming between forms. The terrible line I hated is still there and it's exactly the fucking same. But it makes a lot more sense being on a funny, almost non-canon splash page just showing this character versus this character. And we have to each say a good taunt like we're in a fighting game or something. And also, again, Black Star in this version has not had Mifune directly say, I don't want to kill you. If you turn around and leave, I won't kill you. I am not an evil man. Blaring neon from the heavens. It doesn't come off as him just being a fuck taunting an innocent dude while he's down. In a shonen thing, it's kind of justified for you to shit talk the villain, and from Black Star's perspective, if he genuinely believes that's what Mifune is, I can understand this. It's still a shitty line, it's still not actually very cool, it just makes him sound stupid. But at least it doesn't make him sound evil. I do like this completely goofy, nonsensical line in the middle of the fight. If you want to kill me, you'd have to melt down a big statue of Buddha to make a sword big enough. I mean, I guess maybe it's supposed to be intentional that Black Star is really bad at shit-talking. Again, another situation of the dialogue being the same, but the context around it making you see it framed less as just Black Star aggravating this guy for no reason. Because this is the first time Mifune brings up the idea that, hey, I don't want to kill you, you can leave. Considering how he didn't peacefully say that beforehand and Black Star didn't refuse it on purpose, you can see Black Star not believing him when he says this and actually thinking, oh, you're only saying this to taunt me, you're like, I'm too pathetic to fight. It's like a character just misunderstanding a thing turned into a character purposefully being a fuckhead. I'm not sure how the anime managed to bungle it this bad. They've really portrayed the fight well. I'm surprised a lot of exact beats we saw in the Sakuga animation were already here. The author improved so much in one chapter. I am still like, fuck yeah, kick his ass on this moment though. Another difference in the manga, they actually fake out that he genuinely did slash and kill Black Star, and then they reveal he hit him with the back of the blade. In the anime, the animation is very clear that he only got hit by a blunt thing, and he's fine. Again, I'm not sure why they would make that change. Maybe it was some kind of censorship rule on how much violence they can show, which doesn't make sense because the anime has more blood. Maybe blood was allowed, but decapitation wasn't? Also, Tsubaki's no moment actually makes a lot more sense. It's like, no, it can't be, she genuinely thinks he's dead, and then they reveal it was only the back of the sword. In the anime, that moment just made me go, oh, no, don't say no to Mifune saying that Black Star sucks. Actually, he does suck, actually. He did deserve to lose this fight because he wasn't taking it seriously. That's also a thing, the manga kind of doesn't give an impression that he's not taking the fight seriously because he's being so arrogant. It kind of feels like he is genuinely trying to fight. They really did him dirty! But again, Mifune's whole thing of calling out exactly Black Star's problem, and then Black Star does not learn from that problem, and the resolution of that problem is not the end of the manga. I hope there's going to be some wildly different dialogue which actually does resolve this plot in any way. But at least again, the framing makes it very different. The framing makes it feel like the audience might generally take this as him just taunting Black Star when he's down because he's a bad villain, because we've had no foreshadowing whatsoever that he's actually a secret cool dad man yet. Is that a recurring thing in the anime? Were they just really resistant to having, like, it take the whole length of an episode for the characters to figure something out? There's been multiple times they've added more foreshadowing. I did think it generally made it better in terms of the Blair fight in the first episode. In this one, I don't think it does. Another moment that doesn't seem as bad, reframed, Black Star going, of course you're not really trying to protect the witch because you're a good guy, you must just be an evil weirdo who's got horrible self-confidence issues, and you're worse, you're a bigger spotlight hog than me, you're a bigger, more arrogant man than me, rah. Again, in the anime, when you fucking know Mifune is a good guy, it comes off really awful, and when Black Star, by all logic, should also know that Mifune is a good guy, it comes off as purposeful and stupid and him denying reality. In this version, again, genuine misunderstanding. From his perspective, he's coughing up blood. Clearly it hurt him a lot more than it actually did in the anime. He's on the ground hurting. He's being, as far as he knows, humiliated by a guy who's probably evil, and he's not going to believe him when he says one sympathetic thing after a big, long, massive tirade of a paragraph about how much Black Star sucks. Which, to be fair, is still correct, and he does, but it's not very conducive to teaching him a lesson to just scream that at him with no context. I can understand Black Star reacting in the worst possible way. The manga gives an actual name to the move where Tsubaki pretends to be him. It's called Dummy Star. They also have Black Star say out loud what move he is using and the reason why it wins. It's his ultimate move, I guess his equivalent of a final smash or a limit break, called the Black Star Big Wave. We do learn that later in the anime because he does use it in other episodes. It's weird they just didn't have it there. But also, it's weird and abrupt that he just ends it with going, I'm a god! I'm a god! In the anime, they phrase it more as, I'll be so strong I can surpass God, which makes a lot more sense. I think this is probably another case of an idiom in Japanese which doesn't convey correctly said literally. Also, wow, the Sakuga is better in this unanimated version. The effect for him bouncing off the attack, it makes a lot more sense why this one move instantly defeated Mifune. I don't think I even mentioned that in my big, long, grumpy critique video, but that did bug me how it was just and Black Star kind of punches his back and he's gone. You get much more of a sense this is an actual ultimate attack, an energy beam. There's a reason why it worked. He is genuinely very hurt by it. I'm not sure why they would tone that down for the anime. More dialogue edits, this part is just not here. By the way, you're an evil bodyguard protecting an evil witch. Villains like you deserve to die. I'm a hero who's going to stop the villain. That whole part is not there in the conversation in the anime. It's just him going, you try to show off more than me, you're stronger than me, that's the only reason I'm fighting you. That's really weird. Why would they specifically choose to cut that out? This feels almost malicious. But the anime isn't really framed like they want you to not like Black Star, so why would they do that? Why would they write him to be less likable? Did they just not get how this would be? I don't understand. Oh, the ending is also so much better. They, actually show Black Star literally crying and, trying to hide it from how much he's emotionally affected, from the idea that he almost killed a kid because he was misled this guy was evil. He still is boasting and going, oh, I'm totally not really doing this because of moral reasons. I'm too cool, you're just uncool because you are a dad. But you can see directly on his face that he's lying. Obviously he's still lying in both versions, but having this sign that he really is emotionally affected and there actually is a good side to him, directly shown on screen, is much more effective than just framing him from the back and only conveying it through dialogue which literally directly says the exact opposite. You're just meant to know he's lying. Yeah. Also, I just like this panel here of Mifune giving it the first genuine smile we've seen in the whole fight. That's nice. The framing of this does seem better. Also, Black Star says sorry to Tsubaki? What the fuck? And then they ruin it, because immediately cutting right after that moment directly to the same shitty thing of him purposely peeping on her and all the women. It's shown in even more extreme detail than in the anime. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty conflicted on this. My impression, if I'd only read the manga chapter, because I know when I was a kid, I watched the anime first and then the manga second. I don't remember too much about the manga except really hating the ending. But if I'd seen the manga first, I probably wouldn't have had such a viscerally bad reaction to Black Star immediately. Almost every single change they made reframed this more as him purposefully doing bad things rather than just... In the manga, I would indeed believe he is a guy who comes off as a jerk accidentally and in fact is not truly. They gave so much more screen time to him being mean to Tsubaki. They removed the lines of him genuinely saying nice things to her and apologising for what he did. Generally, the fact it ends in him apologising, why the fuck is that gone? But at the same time, it's even more suffers from the problem of Mifune being kind of crammed into the end and not having much development, and not even very much dialogue in this version, and you only learn about his true, real, sympathetic personality in the last 2 pages. I can understand why the anime wanted to expand upon it and show more of him, but the way they did it was at the expense of making it so blatantly obvious that he's not bad, that Black Star looks like just a horrific person. But then also in the manga, I do think I would have been still pissed off just for different reasons. Oh, you want me to believe this guy is, kind of stupid and bratty, but not really bad, and then you show him directly, purposefully doing 2 very, very bad intentional things that are just so horrible, but they're played off as funny and harmless, I guess. So maybe the problem is that the writer didn't see these things as really bad traits for Black Star to do. Why things are a bit more fan service in the first 3 chapters, and maybe the writer had a different moral view on fan service that changed before going to the final thing, or I don't know, maybe the editor told him this is a bit much and this just makes Black Star look like a total fuck. Either way, it's interesting at least that these 2 versions were the most different of anything we've seen so far, and they both fuck up really badly on making you actually care about Black Star in 2 totally different ways. I'm at least more optimistic going forward, knowing this is probably what his character is intended to be. I'm going to try and view later episodes through that lens. If I see any more really bad Black Star episodes, I'm going to stop and I'm going to think, the anime is doing this, it's not the man himself, and I'm going to take comfort in that. Episode 3, Chapter 3, comparison thingy. Oh, very different colouring on this first splash page. Def the kid with brown hair, and the 2 sisters both having blonde hair instead of one of them being brown. Patty communicating in uwu speak. I don't find that as funny as just having her have strange tones in how she says stuff. Another weird moment of something that may have possibly been changed between this and the final. Kid saying my art is always symmetrical, rather rather than art is always symmetrical, implies that he's an artist in this version. He's not in the final version, he just really appreciates art. There's no indication given that he made all the decorations around his house. But you never know, it might still be canon, they just didn't mention it. The horrible out-of-character fan service is still here. I don't think this artist really knows how female anatomy works. Have you seen a Hasselback potato? Imagine, like, a man's hand sinking into a boob in a way that looks like that. Another entirely unique based Patty line. In this version, her way of encouraging him isn't, "You're not garbage, you don't smell," it's, "You're not a pig, kid. Pigs say meow." I fucking love that. Garbage goes oink! Why did they change that? I don't know if that means that, like, the dub changed that, or if it is just the manga translator just had a bit of a flourish and made an even funnier joke. Whoever thought this up, I love you. I can't believe we're getting version exclusive funny Patty moments. Also, incidentally, this version doesn't have the confusion of me not knowing what the older sister's name was, because in the very first panel they introduce her, there's just a box showing everyone's names. Another little thing removed from the anime is a brief panel of Kid's eyes changing to death colours before he does the magic to summon talking to his dad. I always like the little moments where they show off, like, more monstrous aspects to his powers, and they're a little few and far between. Another little bit of dialogue that was missing, or at least not elaborated on enough about the motivations behind it. I probably didn't mention this because, again, it didn't seem relevant in the anime. When Lord Death says hi to Kid, he's like, "Oh, the stripes in your hair are as cute as a button," and Kid responds with, "You don't have to say that just to reassure me about my self-confidence issues. That does not make me happy, father." And I like it. That's a good moment of showing their bond and showing that Kid does, like, actually appreciate his dad, but also his dad is going about the wrong way of trying to bond with him. It instantly and immediately gives more context to why Kid is this way, where he's like, "I'm going to prove I can do this without the help of my father," rather than just generic teenage rebellion or this strange idea that, like, just having a really loving father is embarrassing and stuff. It's more clear that Lord Death just does not really know how to raise a kid and is trying too hard about things that are just transparently obvious that, like, you don't really mean that, you were just trying to do something to mollify me. And in defense, if someone had done it to me, I might also feel patronized, like, you really think it's that easy to just solve my mental health issues? But again, both sides are sympathetic. I don't think either of them is trying to be, like, a bad relationship with their father. It's understandable, it's good. I'm more invested immediately in this relationship. From one line of dialogue changed, that's wild. Oh, also, yeah, in retrospect, it makes things a little bit less repetitive between Black Star and Kid, because it does mean 2 times in a row, both of them have decided on purpose, I want to take a job which will let me get all the souls in one go. Kid is, in fact, the only one who purposefully did that. That's a flaw to his character alone, because of his obsession with being perfect, and the fact that he wants to try and be an equal or better than humans without actually interacting with them. It makes a lot more sense for his character. When Black Star does it, again, the only motivation you really get is he's actually arrogant and he's actually being a jerk. It reframed so much that he didn't fucking do it at all. They did him so dirty. I keep coming back to that. I also like what the manga so far has been showing more variety of the funny faces the sun and the moon do in random panels. Like, here we have it sparking a lot like an electrical plug just to show that this is a sunnier country. That's cute. It wasn't cute when they were randomly murdering the moon, but I can overlook that. Oh, is that not canon then? We don't actually see him fully flying through the sky. We only briefly see him, like, hovering on the skateboard and coming in. For all we know in the manga, this means a skateboard might be less powerful. Or maybe they just haven't chose to show it yet. Maybe it comes up later in another chapter. Oh, they also don't have a very detailed effect for him sucking the skateboard into his hand. It still happens, but you could easily gloss over the panel and not even see that. Good job in the anime for giving a full scene to it. Gotta say, they're kind of framing even the most basic panels a little bit slightly more, like, not fully fan service, but, you know, it's a really odd choice to just randomly have the girls, like, one of them standing with her butt to the camera, and then the other girl shows she has the front button undone on her trousers. What? The funny head nose men were also canon to the manga. They looked more scary and less adorable. Oh, and Patty's funny line about eyes is totally different too. Instead of, if you sneeze, your eyes will pop out of your head, it's, I'm so glad that when you blink, your eyes aren't squished like grapes. If they were, nobody would ever blink again. And we're gonna buy loads of eye drops to avoid that. Is one of these a mistranslation? Because they're both very similar things, but also totally different. Are the words for, like, blink and sneeze similar in Japanese? Or was it just a purposeful choice that each version will have a different joke about eyes? Oh, the reveal the mummies having spooky faces was a lot more extreme in the manga. I can understand why they found them scary this time, but also way too much detail on the licking, ew. Death the Kid's handwriting is a lot worse on a funny joke of him leaving a note and running away. I guess maybe it's meant to be a joke that even though he's so fancy and posh, he doesn't have fancy posh handwriting, but I don't know. The scene of Liz and Patty fighting solo together is still really cool and really well, not animated but drawn, but it's a lot less clear exactly the line of action, like where and what is happening. It's all kind of just a big blur of loads of fun, cool stuff, so the anime did a good job of showing with camera angles and stuff exactly where they're spinning and who's grabbing who's turning into the weapon at what point and everything like that. I really love this one panel. That's such a good action moment. Oh, it's hollowing it out to its soul like that. And the sheer detail of the little moat, the scraps of the bandages, like, oh, really, this artist is so good at doing one-off single action panels. They still have the same joke of the witch being killed one panel in and narrating every moment of being killed. I'm glad that has always been canon. You will live forever in my heart, random lady of 5 seconds. Kid is briefly shown having glasses when he's checking the painting. I can vaguely remember him having glasses in at least one episode at one point. It does make a lot of sense here because he doesn't have them on when he's looking at the painting, he puts them on after he's looking at the painting, but then he doesn't wear glasses all the time. It doesn't seem like he's even nearsighted or farsighted. Is it just meant to be a funny pose like, haha, puts on sunglasses, cool or something? Is it actually canon that he needs glasses? I can swear I've seen at least one picture of him wearing glasses in the anime. It's a little bit clearer that the thing that Liz and Patty use to absorb the souls is actually a magic lighter, with, instead of the thing that the fire comes out of, it's a little face. I think I also didn't remark upon that in my review of the episode. It was such a small detail, it didn't seem interesting. It is interesting in the manga. It was just some kind of nondescript metal device over there. Oh, realised I forgot to notice this actually in the anime. When I rewatched the episode, I noticed there is at least a kind of explanation to what the cat head thing is. After it's defeated, its face turns into the same as the mummies. I guess it was one of the mummies that for some reason can shapeshift into a cat ball. It's still as much of a out-of-nowhere nonsense moment, because why is it that one mummy can shapeshift into a cat ball, but it's at least 1% less than why is there a cat ball amongst the mummies for no reason at all? Oh fuck, the fanservice is so much fucking worse. Oh Jesus Christ, this is the worst of all of them. You know it showed underboob and like the slight corners of their thongs pointing out of their pants. It fully pulls their pants off and exposes their entire underwear. They put a lot of detail into. They have different types of underwear. There's a bandage in between the boobs, separating the boobs out, and the majority of the boobs is shown. It's like, it's not just underboob, it's like literally only the top of the shirt is covering where the areolas would be. It's really disgusting. I had to immediately scroll straight past it. What the fuck, actually? It's also not as funny because Kid's reaction is just, oh, sorry for barging in, rather than in the anime it's like, it is genuinely funny. He thinks, oh, they're just having consensual sex with a tentacle monster, or I'm really sorry for being impolite, you carry on. That was genuinely funny. That was a good punchline to the scene that made it less disgusting. They actually put a line for the camel toe on the vagina. I looked upwards again. No! It's the same thing I said about Blair, but it's like, because there's underwear over it, they can continue on the line. Oh, ew, 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 ew. Oh. Moving on. Still equally as stupid a plot hole of they can't turn into guns while they're being molested by the wrappings. Immediately the wrappings get broken and it's very obvious that this wasn't an actual plot point to limit them in any way. This was just an excuse to show them being molested by wrappings. Like, it's full on molesting. They were going up the boobs. Ew, 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 ew. And the ending is the same. Kid can't kill him because he's so symmetrical and so is OCD, etc. I would say at least in manga they repeat the joke about the OCD a little bit less, because again there's less screen time. I guess that makes a sense why it seems so strange. They have to fill the time and they just do it by repeating the same thing. But yeah, Kid can't kill him because he's symmetrical. He is in fact not symmetrical. Kid kills him. I also didn't mention this in the review, but it's mildly funny how Kid is like, there is precisely one detail on your design that is symmetrical. I will blow up the entire rest of you. That was a funny one-liner to end the thing. Oh, actually, yo, the fight is a lot better in the manga. I was saying that did feel weird in the anime. I was like, after so much of Kid getting beaten up, after so much struggle they went through, after so much Sakuga in the fight against the random basic mummy minions and not the main boss guy, it was so weird how it just ended in literally one blow and then it's over. In the manga, it's a whole fucking 2-page splash spread of 1,000 blows, and it is still over as fast, but the way it's drawn here, it implies a degree of more things than happened, and we're just kind of skipping it over in a montage. I don't know why I didn't just do this in the anime. I mean, they could have fleshed out into a full fight if they wanted. They have the budget. Why is this the only fight in the episode that stays in just a one-panel thing? Like, in the previous 2 episodes, we had several fights that were over fast that were made longer in the anime. Why didn't they pick this to be where they put the new screen time rather than just, we will repeat the symmetry joke 2 more times? I also love the son looking confused at it. What the actual fuck? Zooming in on the pussies? The pussies? For no reason, just this random scene of normal exposition has a huge zoom in on the ass of both of the twins, and they literally show, like, the fabric of the trousers bunched up in a way to literally outline the entire labia and the line in between where it's defined. It is like, he's just a random circle drawn into our trousers that pops out our pussy and nothing else. Like, a pocket for that. This is not how jeans work. They would have to be a very different type of fabric for that to happen naturally. And it's so beyond the level of just really explicit than you'd expect. I am obviously blurring this out. Like, holy shit. But just trust me, underneath that tiny circle is a tiny circle of exactly the worst thing. Coffee beans, that's it. They look like literally just coffee beans stapled onto their vag. God, I'm trying not to be a prude, but like, how does the thought even cross your mind? Like, oh, yeah, I think these 15 and 16-year-old characters have a puffy pussy. Like, just... There is a line where you've got to stop and think and look at yourself like, this is not the place or the time. Also, abruptly, Liz's outfit completely changed for the panel underneath. Where did your tie go? Why have you suddenly got a Power Girl boob thing? Did the mummy sew their clothes into more revealing things afterwards? And it ends on the same shitty joke. Okay, this chapter had a lot less changes than the other 2. It was mostly just things about pacing that got a little bit worse, and again, the fan service being so much more terrible. God, I just know Patty has fucking puffy pumpkin shorts. And in that one panel, they were really skin tight instead. Nothing makes sense. Everything is hell. I'm so glad I never have to look at this chapter again. Next time I go, I'm going to revisit this series. I will remember, don't read this particular one. I really honestly wish the anime changed more about the fan service. Like, again, I just say you can have fan service just in a way that's not degrading and weird to the women. You could have just replaced all these scenes with something where sexy girl Liz is being sexy on purpose because she just has a personality like that. It's so easy. Or like actual sexual tension between the characters because they're actually attracted to each other, not this situation of like guy who apparently is like either not attracted to women or just really oblivious about his attraction to women, just purely platonically grabs some boobs, and the mummy tentacle rapes people for no particular reason, and just it's such a contrived excuse. This chapter in particular is the one where it's the most, this does not make sense in the plot, why is it here? So overall, my review of the changes in the manga, chapter 1 to episode 1, almost entirely a vast improvement. All the changes made sense and made things better. Chapter 2, wildly bad changes. I would not have hated Blackstar as much in this original version. He's just a mildly mid character to an absolute chode. And chapter 3, episode 3, they're both basically the same, except the fan service is a little bit more shitty. And now with that, I have completed reviewing all 3 first episodes of Soul Eater, and hopefully giving you guys a good representation of the show, except the fact that there is so much less of this fan service later in the show. Bear with me, believe me on that. If you are interested in watching it yourself, I hope you enjoy it. This show is better in a lot of ways than I remembered. In some ways, with one particular character, it's a little bit worse, but then that may have just been an anime problem. Hey, it all worked out in the end. I will now leave it here and listen to the responses of you guys watching in the comments if you want me to continue on more reviewing this series. Beautiful sliced and roasted Hasselback potato, an appealing culinary item. Ping. Image.